UFC 274, Charles Oliveira versus Justin Gaethje. It's been a while since the UFC have really put on anything that's really worth getting excited about, in my opinion. Last fight night was good with Font and Vera, but not really that many good ones recently. I feel like, they have ups and downs of the UFC. Sometimes they put on great cards, sometimes they slow down a bit, but we're here. A great pay-per-view, in my opinion. You look at the whole main card. The main event's a banger, but then all the other ones, Rose Namajunas versus Carla Esparza, Chandler versus Ferguson, Mauricio Rua versus Ovince St. Preux, and Donald Cerrone versus Joe Lozon. So, a really good main card. The prelims and early prelims, nothing too much to shout about. In the early prelims, nothing there. Many fighters that I look at I think are interesting. Tracy Cortez looks decent on the feet, but again, nothing too much to get excited about against Melissa Gatto again. Early prelims, nothing really much there, and on the prelims, you got Brandon Royval fighting, who I enjoy watching, but again, nothing too much there. I think fair to say. Again, I like Brandon Royval, that Tracy Cortez, but nothing too much to me to really get excited about. The main fights, obviously, on the main card are the real ones that pique my interest, as it is with most cards, but sometimes they can surprise you with the prelims, but nothing too much here, and I think that's because the main card is so strong, in my opinion. So what I'm going to do is, all fights are interesting, but to me, I'm going to focus on the main three fights, because to me, these are the fights that really are the interesting ones to me. So starting off, we got the lightweight three-rounder between Michael Chandler and Tony Ferguson. Two guys who have had some losing streaks at the moment. Obviously, Chandler, in his last fight, had that war with Justin Gaethje. And Ferguson's last fight obviously lost to Dariush. Both guys losing the decision, but I think it's interesting. I think Ferguson's very much on a downward spiral in his career. I don't think many people can disagree on that. Obviously, his last fight, he lost to Beneil Dariush, but before that, he got absolutely dominated by Charles Oliveira in the grappling, and then got the life being out of him by Justin Gaethje. So, again, Oliveira, world champion, Gaethje fighting in the main event. Dariush supposed to be fighting Makhachev, who a lot of people feel will be next for a belt. So, he's not losing to bums, he's losing to very good fighters, but I think it kind of shows that he's not at that level at the moment or anymore. He's 38 now, Tony Ferguson, so I don't think that he's really got all that much left, in my opinion. I think they did a smart thing by giving him two grapplers, essentially, in Oliveira and Dariush. But now he's fighting a real powerful guy, a guy very similar to Gaethje. Not the same. I think Gaethje's a better technical striker than Chandler. I think he's better on the feet, but a guy with Chandler who's who's dangerous. If you want to look at Michael Chandler, like I said, obviously in his last fight he lost to Justin Gaethje, which in fairness was a pretty close fight. The first round was close, but I think after that Chandler kind of just fought a bit like a lunatic, and it's entertaining, but it isn't really. If you're Michael Chandler's corner or a fan of his, you really want him to fight a bit more smart, because it would have given him a better chance in that fight, in my opinion. But I don't thought him, though. It was a great fight. He then, before that, obviously lost the title fight to Charles Oliveira, and before that, he beat Dan Hooker. Losing to Gaethje and Oliveira, like I said, it's the two main event guys. They both of these guys have lost to these guys. Both Ferguson and Chandler have lost to Oliveira and to Gaethje. So it's not a shame to lose to these two. And Dan Hooker was a good victory for Chandler, especially when you look at where Hooker was at that time. But yeah, I think with Chandler, he's 36, so again, he's getting on a bit as well. But to his credit, he's taken nothing but killers in this fight and in his UFC career thus far. And in this fight, Tony Ferguson's still dangerous. He hasn't fought for quite a while now. Chandler last fought Gaethje and UFC 268, which was in November, I think the 7th, and Tony last fought Beneil Dariush. If it comes back to, I think it was UFC 262 in May, I think it was, of 21. So damn near almost a year since Tony's fought. So Chandler will be the fresher out of the two, but he did take more damage, which is an issue. And I think for Ferguson, his whole career, I think he's been very good, Tony Ferguson, his whole career. Don't get it twisted, you know. If you look past when he lost to, like, before he lost to Gaethje, beat Donald Cerrone. It was a bit of a weird one because he kind of blew his nose and his eye got really big, but it was still a good win for that. Beat Anthony Pettis on the Khabib McGregor card, and then before that one, Kevin Lee for the interim belt, and then initially, you know, he had that crazy fight winning streak where he beat RDA, beat Lando Venata. Again, to me, like, Tony Ferguson has been had a very good streak. I think it was 12 fights that he won on the trot. But my problem with Tony Ferguson in these fights is I felt like he's always fought guys who were kind of not really specialists. And I always said, to me, the one thing that will separate, almost not on that record, which I think he needed, was the sort of higher contender. You know, a Dustin Poirier, a Justin Gaethje, people like that. And we saw what happened when he fought Justin Gaethje. But again, you can blame different things for that. But in my opinion, I think that's what was missing. I think Tony Ferguson, to me, no matter what stage of his career, would never have beaten Khabib. I think Khabib doesn't really make that many mistakes compared to Ferguson, who, as good as he is, makes a lot of mistakes. So I just think that narrative, to me, was a bit... I understood it was a great fight, those two, and I would have loved to see it. I hate that we'd never see that fight or saw that fight, but you got to understand... I just think that Khabib was just in a league of his own when it came to that. I think you look at Khabib, you look at GSP, John Jones, Usman, I think's in that category, Anderson Silva at a point, you know, just the elite. And I think Tony is just a bit below it. But a great fighter still, and, you know, very good on the feet, mixes it up. He was doing some stuff with Freddie Roach. I don't know if he still is, but he hasn't really fought for a while, so maybe he's doing some stuff differently. Sometimes I think staying out of the octagon for a long time can really hurt some fighters, but it can also help them a lot. It can almost rejuvenate them a little bit. And I think that's what... it'd be interesting to see what happens in this fight with Chandler. I think with Chandler, one thing that's interesting about him is he's extremely powerful, kind of has a way of... A little bit like how Woodley used to fight. Not the same. He a bit more pressurised, is Chandler, but he kind of fights in a way where... he like... I don't know, he almost like squats down as a fight. You know, he's one of those sort of wrestlers with the overhand, but he's very, very powerful and explosive. And I think that's why many fighters try to almost stay at range with him. Gaethje, to his credit, stood right in front of him, but Gaethje's made us something different. I think he's just a lunatic. But the chin of Chandler would be interesting because he got knocked down and got beaten up badly in the Gaethje fight. Again, it was close. He did have some good moments, but ultimately got knocked down. How he didn't get knocked out in the second one, I don't know. He got knocked out by Charles Oliveira, or TKO'd pretty much. So, you know, it's a rough few fights, so it'll be interesting. But Tony's never really had the power, so I don't really know if that would be an issue for Chandler. But yeah, I don't know. I don't like this fight for Tony, though. I think Tony's chin was always probably up there as one of the best in UFC. He took some bounce from Gaethje and survived, but I just don't know if he can really... afford to be like that with Chandler, because Ferguson was always very easy to hit, and it's one reason why I've always given McGregor a solid chance against him, because to me, I don't know, I just think he gets hit way too much. Tony Ferguson is... Him and Oliveira got a very similar habit, in my opinion, of just having a thing where they would get hurt and having to recover every single fight. And to me, I said this was sort of leading to what I think about the main event, but with Tony Ferguson, he would get hit and dropped almost near every fight, and I always thought there's going to be one fight. You know, with fighters, when they have patterns that they kind of always have, like, I took this approach a little bit with the Teofimo Lopez and Vasyl Lomachenko fight, where Lomachenko had a pattern of he would always start slow in fights, and because he would start slow, but he has such a great brain, he would be able to figure you out. I always figured eventually somebody's going to pick up on that, and Teofimo Lopez did. You know, if you look at with Ben Askren, this was a bit more of a freak incident, but he had a tendency of always doing nothing but shooting, and Masvidal obviously figured that the flying knee would work, and eventually people are going to pick up on his habits, especially at this level. So To me, Ferguson you can only do that for so long, and that's sort of why I wasn't really surprised when Gaethje beat him. I actually picked Gaethje to beat him at the time, and yeah, it being 3 rounds doesn't really help him either. I think if it was a 5 rounder, you may actually see Ferguson. If he could weather the storm, maybe he could take him into the later rounds and possibly submit him. Who knows? But yeah, it's a good fight though. This one, like two fights who kind of need the win. Whoever loses is going to be rough for them, unless it's a really close fight. Then maybe who knows, we can possibly revive their career. I like to see the winner of this fight, Conor McGregor. Personally, I think it would make more sense for Conor, who's trying to come back quite soon. So yeah, but when it comes to my prediction, I love Tony Ferguson, but I just think he's getting knocked out in this one. I think it'll be a first round knockout to Michael Chandler. I think Chandler's just too powerful, too explosive for him, and he can't help but get hit Tony Ferguson. And yeah, to me, I don't know. He could pull something out of the bag. I hope he does. He's a fan favourite, and I get it. He's very entertaining, Tony Ferguson. But yeah, I just think Chandler takes this one. So yeah, for this one, I'm going Michael Chandler first round KO. Going into the co-main event, we have Rose Namajunas versus Carla Esparza for the strawweight title. A rematch, if people remember this one. I think, how far back was it when Rose fought Carla Esparza here? Because this one was, I want to say, was it yeah, it was on the tough finale, that's what I say. So obviously in that fight, we're going back to December 2014. So we're talking damn near 8 years ago, where Carla Esparza submitted her in the 3rd round. Since then, they've both done good. Carla Esparza was the champ, but then obviously she lost to Joanna, and Rose had some up and downs in her career. You know, she obviously beat likes of Paige, Van Sant, beat what's her face, Angela Hill. Then past that point, beat Karina. I can never pronounce her second name. Beat Tisha Torres, so she really did well. Rose then obviously won the bout against Joanna, and then also beat Michelle Watson prior. But then obviously got knocked out. She beat Joanna rematch, but then she got knocked out, if you want to call it that, by Jessica Andrade, and then had a rough second fight with Andrade, and then obviously beat Weili Zhang twice. So Rose had a pretty exciting career. Only 29, which I was shocked. I thought she'd be a bit older. I know she's young looking, but I still thought feels like she's been around forever, Rose. But I think this fight is strawweight's a weird one. In my opinion, it's the best female division in the UFC, but there's just not enough at the moment for me to really get that excited about. I was really excited for the Zhang Weili and Rose fight, and I don't know, I kind of feel like the Rose knocking Weili out was surprising to me. I thought Weili would win, but kind of expected it to be a bit more competitive, or less last long. And then in the second fight, Weili decided to wrestle with her a bit more, so it's a weird one, but a good fight though. And the second one I'm talking. For Rose, I don't know, I think she needs some higher competition. Carla Esparza, don't get twisted, she's a legend. She's done her time and has had a good career, in fairness to her. You know, look at 34, she's not really got that much longer left. Obviously she's on a 2, 3, 4. Yeah, she hasn't lost, I'm looking here, for quite a while. So, you know, I think that Carla Esparza definitely is a worthy challenger. I think her beating Marina Rodriguez really surprised me. Similar with the likes of Alexa Grasso as well. I think she's really gone through this division really well, but again, it's one of those, you need kind of ones that excite you, and I think the only real female contender, I think she's going up now to above, but Tatiana Suarez was the only one who I thought really had an interesting thing, because she was a real good grappler, but I know she has a lot of injury issues, which is a shame. But yeah, for Rose, I think she's exciting. She's a brilliant fighter to watch. She's fantastic movement. Obviously, Trevor Whitman, one of his champions, and exciting. I think with Carla Esparza, she's a little bit of one of these. You know, now it's funny, MMA kind of has evolved. Now you see fighters who are kind of better at everything, but it feels like more specialists are sort of emerging, and the older fighters tend to be the ones who who I don't know, they're a bit more, how would I describe it? They're almost good at everything, but not masters of anything. I know, like, you have some ones like Anderson Silva in there and GSP, but the older generation of fighters, I think, don't really match up. And Carla Esparza is kind of part of that new generation, or the old generation even. Her grappling is very good. On the feet, she isn't particularly amazing to watch. But I really do think, though, with Carla Esparza, I think the one thing that she can play on with Rose is the fact that she did beat her, because Rose is a very good fighter, but mentally she can be very vulnerable, and I think that to me is the one interesting thing. Whaley was also able to take her down in the last fight, so perhaps that maybe she could be able to play on that. And I think, I could see Carla winning this fight. Rose, like I said, she's a bit unpredictable. She really should beat everybody, I think, in this division, but sometimes she just has moments, even against Jessica Andrade. Andrade really isn't that great on the feet at all, but she was getting lit up in that third round against her, so it makes me think that, I don't know, Rose is a bit of an unpredictable one. I don't know. You never know with her, but I definitely, I'd favour in this one, though. I don't really see her having much problems. I would like to see Joanna maybe beat Whaley and maybe have those two fight for a third time, because again, that division is getting a bit thinking. Not really much competition in there, and I don't think Rose will ever go up to fight Valentina because of, I think they were friends, which for the record is probably good for Rose, because Valentina is just another level in my opinion. But a good fight. I think for Carla it's good. I'm happy she's getting an opportunity. She deserves it, and I think, again, 34, she's not old. I think that's Kamaru Usman's age pretty much, so she's definitely in her prime, maybe coming out of it a little bit, but she's definitely there, and I think a worthy contender. And who knows, like I said, the mental side of it, I think, is her best bet, because if she can get Rose down and keep her down and maybe get her locked up in a Kimura or with a body triangle and perhaps take her back, maybe Rose maybe flapping a bit, ultimately, the way Carla beat her obviously last time was with the rear naked choke, so if she can get her in a similar position, Rose, again, mentally, maybe she might panic, maybe she might quick tap, you don't know. Mentally, these fighters have to be very strong, but sometimes because they have to be very strong, they can also be very weak. And I think Rose, like I said, physically there aren't really many issues. Her grappling is pretty good, her striking is very good, so to me, she's evolved a lot as a martial arts, I think, down the years. But yeah, I think she'll still get it done, though. But I'm like 60, maybe 70 for 80 to Rose, but it's not a huge thing. I do think I could see Carla beat her, but to me, I think she's going to have to lean on the wrestling a lot. And I think if you can just sort of slow Rose, if you can tire Rose doesn't really have cardio problems, but if you could tire her, maybe you could catch her with something. But yeah, I think that Rose gets this done. I'm going to say I think Rose gets this done. I think she'll get the decision. I don't think she'll knock her out. And I don't think she'll submit her, really, because Carla's very good on the ground. But yeah, I'm going to say of a... I say Rose gets a 5-round decision. And I hope Joanna... I really like Whaley a lot, but if Joanna can beat her, I'd love to see those two fight again, because at this point, I don't know who else is left in this division. Maybe you're going to have to take... I don't know what you're going to do. I mean, again, maybe... If Valentina's up for it, and if Rose is up for it, maybe you could have those two fight, but I don't think that will happen. I think they're both friends, so there's an issue with that. But yeah, good, definitely a solid fight there and a good co-main event, especially up to the main event. So yeah, good one, but I think Rose takes it. Now into the main event, Charles Oliveira and Justin Gaethje. A fight that is a very, very interesting one to me. Charles Oliveira obviously won the belt off of Michael Chandler. Or didn't win off him, actually. It was vacant, and he obviously won the vacant title when Khabib retired. And obviously his last fight, he had his first defense against Dustin Poirier, where he choked him out in the third. A good performance from Oliveira, to his credit. One of his better ones, I actually think. Did well against Dustin, and I think if you look at his since if you go before he won the belt, he obviously beat Tony Ferguson, beat Kevin Lee, beat Gordon, beat Nick Lentz. He really went on a good run, Oliver, and I think he's now at a point, he's 32, where his skills are almost more refined, and he's become more of a Muay Thai fighter than just a purely jiu-jitsu fighter. And I think that's helped him a lot. I love the sort of knees and elbows he throws, that sort of teep kick that he always kind of teases with his lead leg. And he's an exciting fighter to watch. I really love watching Oliveira, and I think he's a worthy champion. And then when you got Justin Gaethje, one of my favourite fighters to watch just from a pure chaos point of view. He's a mental in there. I think his mentality is so intriguing when I watch him fight and listen to him. He kind of almost accepts that he's probably going to have brain damage and not really be in a good place, but he will go out there and have a war. But he has become more tactical since losing to Dustin Poirier, I think, or was it Eddie Alvarez, one of those two. He lost to both, obviously, but I think it was... What was the fight when he got tactical? Not that one. It was Dustin Poirier, right? So the Poirier fight, where he actually beat Poirier's legs up a lot and did a lot of damage to him, but he obviously then beat James Vick, beat Barbosa, beat Cerrone, then beat Tony Ferguson, which was a brilliant performance for one of his best ones. It probably is his best, to be honest. He's a lot more technical, I think, than people give him credit for, just in case. He's not just a brawler, especially since he's decided to be a bit more tactical. He's a bit more... like, his boxing is very clean. Obviously, his leg kicks, everybody knows, are, in my opinion, the best currently in MMA. In terms of doing damage, he just breaks you down with those. He did lose to Khabib, obviously, but I always say, losing to Khabib really... It's like almost... Doesn't really count as a loss almost, because Khabib just beats everybody, and Khabib dominates everyone he's come against. I think he would have done the same thing to Oliveira, so I don't think it's a shame to lose to Khabib. And he did beat his legs up a lot and landed some good shots on Khabib. If Khabib didn't have such a good chin, he may have been in trouble. So I think it shows, Gaethje's elite, and Khabib said himself that Gaethje hits like a truck, and I think he's the hardest hitter at 155 by a distance. I don't think anybody has the power. Even McGregor. McGregor has great precision, and Dustin Poirier also has fantastic precision and power. He's more of a volume puncher though, Dustin, but I don't know, Gaethje kind of has that lights out power, and his last fight against Chandler, he was good. Went to war in the first round, but the second and third he was a bit more smart and almost laid Chandler out with the uppercut. So showed you that he's got a lot of power in those hands. And this fight is interesting from a public point of view, because I think one thing I is actually quite interested to know, if Oliveira does win this, he's one behind Khabib in terms of title defenses. And one thing that is also interesting, he pretty much just fought the same guys that Khabib fought. If you swap out Al Quinter for Michael Chandler and then take Conor out just for a sec, Khabib fought Poirier and he fought Gaethje, and the same thing Oliveira's doing. So, and Khabib choked Dustin out with a rear naked choke in the third, and fair enough, Oliveira did the same thing. So it's interesting to see how does he handle Justin Gaethje, who I think gave Khabib a very tough fight, even though I know Khabib made it look easy in the end by doing it second round, but he had to walk through a lot to get there. So yeah, I think that Khabib fight has almost skewed people's opinions of Gaethje. Gaethje's still a very good fighter and he's elite. And in this fight, there's just something that with me in this fight. People seem to think because of how bad Gaethje's jiu-jitsu looked against Khabib, and I don't doubt that isn't probably not that great. People almost look at that and think, okay, so that's the reason why he's going to lose. But again, it's Oliveira is the same thing I said about Tony Ferguson. Gets dropped every single fight, damn near every single fight, and he always recovers. He always comes back. That isn't going to work against every single fight. You're not going to be able to come back every single time. And I just have a feeling that Gaethje's going to be that guy. Gaethje hits harder than Poirier. I know Poirier knocked him out, but math doesn't work. Poirier is essentially a volume puncher. He isn't a one-punch knock-you-out kind of guy. I don't think Gaethje... If Gaethje fought Max Holloway, for example, I don't think Max Holloway makes it out of that fight standing at the end of it. I think he will put you away, and he's very, very big. He's built like a tank, Gaethje, if you look at him physically. So I don't know, man. I just don't think Oliveira will be able to last in there with Gaethje standing. I think he's going to have to mix it up. I could definitely see Oliveira win this. It's not like a clearly to Gaethje, but I think it's 60-40. Maybe 55-45 to Gaethje. Oliveira's jiu-jitsu is the best in the UFC, probably. Gilbert Burns is supposed to be amazing at it, but we haven't really seen much of it with Oliveira that we have, and I think I might be wrong. I think pretty sure he has the most submissions in UFC history. So I do think it's interesting, this fight, for that point of view. If Oliveira can win, I think you've got to give him the respect. I mean, he should get the respect already. He really got a lot of people overlooking him a lot on that Dustin Poirier fight. And I'll be honest, I picked Poirier to win, but I didn't think it would be easy by any means. And again, Oliveira did get lit up in that fight. And my logic for this fight is the same logic I had years ago for the Eddie Alvarez and Conor McGregor fight. Eddie Alvarez was supposed to be a horrible matchup for McGregor. He's tough, he's this and that. His wrestling was good, he's decent striking. But what people fail to realise sometimes is when you have a guy who gets hit as much as Eddie Alvarez does against a guy who is as precise as Conor McGregor, you just got to pray that they make it out of there. And that isn't always going to work. And that's why I picked McGregor to win that fight. And that's why I am picking Justin Gaethje to win this fight. I just think that I just don't see how Oliveira, how many times can he come back from being dropped every single time? I think eventually you're gonna come up against a guy who it's not going to work against. And Gaethje has a thing of he thinks that Oliveira will quit a lot. Oliveira has been seen to quit a few fights, but in fairness, this hasn't happened often. But I actually think Oliveira's chin has got better, but he still does get dropped a lot. And Oliveira's elite. He's more well-rounded than Gaethje. I don't think that's to be debated, but I just think that Gaethje, he just has too much power. I think it's going to be too powerful for him. Will he knock? Yeah, you know what? I think I might go for a Justin Gaethje first round knockout in this one. He is the underdog in this, I'm pretty sure, Justin Gaethje, so I think it would be a surprise if he was to get done the first, but yeah, I don't know. I just have a sneaky feeling, I'd say, about this one. But I think a lot of people favour Oliveira, but honestly, Gaethje, he's not someone to be trifled with on the feet, and whoever wins this, they've got to fight Makhachev. I think Makhachev's going to fight Dariush, so whoever wins this has got to be the winner of that fight, the winner of Makhachev-Dariush, because those two are definitely the most worthy at the moment. I think Makhachev will win that one, and I think he will be champion one day. I think it's inevitable, but we'll see though. He definitely, if Oliveira can beat Gaethje though, I think he sets up a more intriguing matchup though with Makhachev, because it would almost, I feel like if Oliveira beat Makhachev, it may I don't think it will happen, but it might tempt Khabib out of retirement. And I think, because then you've equalled his title defenses against a guy who is his boy, who's in his corner. That would be such an intriguing storyline for that, come to think of it. But yeah, I just don't think that happens. So I think Gaethje's going to knock him out. Too much power, in my opinion. But I could equally, I understand. A lot of people feel like Oliveira is just going to submit him, and I could easily see that happening as well. I don't think Oliveira might knock him out, but I think it's unlikely. I think he's more likely to submit him, in my opinion. Gaethje doesn't really get finished that easily. It takes a lot to sort of get him out of there. So I just wonder if Oliveira's mindset is going to be just to get him out of there on the feet, or whether he might rock him on the feet and maybe then take his back and get him down. Because Gaethje's jiu-jitsu has been non-existent thus far in his UFC career, but who knows, we'll see. Great fight and a great card, to be honest with you. UFC 274, a real interesting one. We got some, I'm hoping now this is sort of, I said this a lot, but the UFC is sort of producing better cards now. You got the Rakic and Blachowicz fight coming up soon. The next UFC pay-per-view is UFC 275 with Glover against Yuri Prohaska. So not a great card, but some good ones on the horizon. But this definitely is probably the best card of the year so far, and I'm really excited to see this fight. I've been looking forward to it for quite a while. So yeah, just my thoughts. I'm going with, like I said, Gaethje, Rose, and Michael Chandler for that. So yeah, my preview for UFC 274, and until next time.